This is Crash Talk. I'm Mike Harber, your host, and we've got a continuation of a topic several weeks ago on diminished value, and there were questions that people were confused. It's like, well, how does this apply to us? Can we make a claim? Can we not make a claim? Is it covered? Is it not covered? What are our rights? So I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice. Neither I or any of my employees, members of my company, Harber Appraisal, or CrashTalk, will give you legal advice. We'll give you our opinions and we'll help you as much as we can. But we're not attorneys and we can't give legal advice. But my guest tonight is an attorney, and we're going to talk about the rest of the story, diminished value. We're going to talk about when it does and when it doesn't. And hopefully this answers the other questions that we evidently must have stirred up with our first episode on diminished value and how it all got started with the Supreme Court case, the landmark case of several years back, and the group that made that happen. So let's hear more about diminished value in our current environment and the way that insurance policies have changed and rights to consumers on this very important topic, diminished value. We've talked about diminished value in the past.
Right.
Diminished value, whether it's under your insurance company at this point in history, it'd have to be an uninsured motorist claim to be able to make a claim.
Right. The diminished value is routinely excluded from comprehensive and collision coverage, but uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage promises to pay all damages that you would be entitled to receive at law from the at-fault driver. And it's been the law of Washington for a century at least that one of those elements of damages is the loss in market value to the vehicle.
Now, with that being said, and kind of setting out the groundwork, and I guess, I don't know, does it hurt for me to identify if I've got a document here from an insurance company, can I reference their name, or is that not a good idea?
Oh, let's just call it brand X.
All right. So we'll say brand X here, the good neighbor.
Rhymes with.
says 3 separate letters to one of our customers, because when we do a diminished value report for somebody, we don't just send a report and tell them good luck. We're in there for the long haul. So we try to help them respond appropriately to stupid letters that come back from the insurance company that says things like, let's see, what's the first one? As explained, we believe that the documentation which you've provided to date, which would have been a report from us, does not substantiate that the value of your vehicle has been reduced due to the damage sustained from an auto accident. So that's one. So then we kind of gave them some pointers on how to respond back. And so then they get another letter. We're in receipt of your letter. Based on the information and documentation you've provided to date, we do not believe there's enough evidence to support the vehicle's lost value as a result of the above accident. Therefore, we must deny your claim for diminished value. And it's just like, and then, so back, sending off another response. Because what we were doing is, don't they have to have some basis for completely denying other than saying, well, we just don't think so? I mean, is there a burden that goes back on them? They've paid a fee from an expert to determine it's all about actual cash value. It's the actual cash value before the accident, and it's the actual cash value after necessary repairs. And if there's a difference of those two numbers, that's how much your car's gone down in value. So for them just to come back and say, no, we don't think so.
Well, there's somebody down there in the basement of the corporate headquarters that wrote those along with the checklist, and the claims adjuster will go through that checklist, and about the 7th or 8th letter, the consumer's going to get that and say, okay, I give up, and everybody gets a Christmas bonus.
Yeah.
So at least that's what they hope is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question though, if John Doe hits my vehicle and I have a claim against John Doe through his insurance company, the third party setting, it's an adversarial process, right? And so they can essentially say, no, we're not paying it. And the consumer's going to have to make a decision. Do I sue John Doe for my diminished value? Depending on the size, depending on the amount of the diminished value, that might get the injured party to just say, forget it. But the injured party can go to small claims court if it's under $10,000. They'll need a report or a live body like yourself to testify as to their diminished value. Or if the consumer who was, if the consumer was injured in the wreck, that's certainly a component of their total claim that they can present through an attorney. If the damages on the diminished value are high enough, it may even make sense to hire an attorney to present and litigate that claim. Now, it has to be high enough so it makes some sense that you can pay an attorney fee, pay the appraiser to testify, and still have some money left over to compensate the insured, right? And on the larger claims, it can make sense to do that. I have seen more recently that when I get involved as an attorney and present the demand, the insurance companies will often come back, and they originally said, we're not paying diminished value, sue us. And as soon as an attorney gets involved, they'll change their strategy and say, well, we'll pay you X. Now, X is not the full amount of the claim, but it is high enough that it makes it very hard for the consumer to say, oh, sure, I want to go incur the costs and attorney's fees of going to a trial or an arbitration over this, so that if I hit a home run and get everything I want to, by the time you deduct those, I'm back to the part where the offer was.
And they know that when they're making the offer.
They've got people in the basement with their adding machines, and they're figuring that all out. So they know that.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things though that I've kind of told people, and Erica, and I think Paul, a couple of the other guests that I've had on the show have kind of along the same lines have said, Erica said, don't be a wimp. Stand up for yourself. And Paul said the same thing, don't give up, because look at it this way. You just said it a minute ago. And they said it right here. Basically, we're not going to pay. Sue us. What if that insurance company, because this is, I might call it soft money in a way. I mean, you don't feel it right now. But if your door is caved in and the glass is all busted out, and the insurance company says, well, we're not going to pay. What are you going to do? You're going to drive your car with that door all crashed in? No, you're going to stand up for yourself because it's right in your face. Whereas diminished value, it's like, and the insurance companies, I think, have tried to create this myth about diminished value that it's free money, that it's, it's just a windfall. You don't really experience a loss until you sell your car, but it's no different than the picture on your wall. If it's torn, if it's damaged, it's worth less, whether you sell it or not. And it's the same thing with an automobile. And so, all boils back to, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to know what your rights are and be willing to assert them. I think the other thing that's important that you mentioned, injuries, no injuries, property damage, that, because some people don't know this, there's some attorneys out there that'll take your injury claim and then they say, okay, you go figure out your property damage on your own. You know, and I try to inform people, you need to make sure if you got an attorney that's going to handle your injury claim, they better be willing to handle your property damage if you can't get resolution on your own.
Mike, decades before I met you, which is now, and we've known each other for a couple of decades, I was one of those attorneys, and I've told people that. When people would say, well, what about my car? What about the value of my car? You just kind of try to ignore that and look the other way. And I'm not proud of that. But as I've learned more over the years now, you know, we always make sure that people are compensated for all of their losses. We work with good people who can help value those, and we go after it. You know, when the first time that issue was ever raised, it was a truck, commercial truck that hit my client, and this was a long time ago. The first thing, it was an independent adjuster hired by the trucking company. First thing he said is Washington law doesn't provide for diminished value. Check that box off, he's wrong. Then he said, well, if the vehicle's been repaired properly, there's no such thing as diminished value. You know, all those things, if you don't bother to educate yourself about that, as the attorney or even as the consumer, you might believe that stuff and just
Right.
go away.
Yeah. No, well, they say it with such authority.
The other thing I would say is this, is that to be able to, I've had people that have had some real significant injuries that have been more worried about he had a brand new F-150. It was a beautiful truck that just got smashed. And of course, he got beat up horribly. He was more worried about his brand new truck. We were able to take care of him, and I was glad I was able to offer that.
Yeah,
be able to do all of that.
Here's an important point that I want to make sure that we cover, because some people don't know this. So if you've got an attorney that's not going to help you with your property damage claim, and they're waiting for you to finish treatment and for you to get your life back to where you're as well as you're going to be, and that can take a year or 2 or 3 just for treatment and get healed up. Well, and you're off where you're trying to figure out this whole diminished value thing. And there's online services and places where you can just pay a few dollars and you get some kind of a report. And then you think, well, they're not going to pay me. So you go file a small claims lawsuit. What did you just do to your injury claim?
Well, there's a rule against what is called claim splitting, all right, which means splitting the property damage. In this instance, be splitting the property damage component from the bodily injury component. Now, the defendant has to bring that up as a potential defense. You don't know if the defendant is going to bring that up as a potential defense, but you sure don't want to do anything that would cause that to happen and harm a claim down the road. And so it's really important for the consumer, the client, in meeting with the attorney to understand, and it's important for the attorney to communicate to the client, here are the components of your claim. that includes a property damage component potentially. You have to determine whether get an evaluation to determine if there is diminished value, or if it or the amount, and you need to educate the client that that's part of the claim, and the attorney should make it clear to the client, and I believe in writing, whether that includes the attorney's representation includes part of that claim.
Mm-hmm.
And the attorney's fee agreement should state up front, here's what I'm representing you for. Here's what I don't represent you for. That has to be spelled out clearly to the client so there's no questions after the fact.
Well, this may even be off limits. And I didn't give you this. I just thought of it. You don't need to answer if you're uncomfortable with this. I don't mean to blindside you, but if a person had an attorney representing them on an injury claim and they didn't give that in writing or explain what their retention would cover, and they end up getting a settlement and a full release of the claim without explanation to the client, and the client has a very valid diminished value claim, would that be malpractice?
Well, it's possible, but we don't know what the release encompasses. If the release says you resolve the case, and if it says I'm accepting X number of dollars in exchange for bodily injuries, then there may be no harm there whatsoever. But if it's one of those 7-pagers, which might include any and all claims known to mankind, then there could be some problem there. Well, so the communication is just critical, and it's up to the attorney, who knows better than the client, to make sure that communication is made, that those that all those things are explained, and this is what we can do for you. This is what we don't do for you if there are attorneys that don't do certain things. Those sort of communications, those issues are out there in all sorts of areas of the practice of law beyond property damage and bodily injury things. There are all sorts of fields where that is important.
Sure. All right. Well, I guess one last piece of advice that you would give for someone that's considering, maybe not even considering. I think everybody needs to protect their assets. They need to be a good steward of the things that they've received. And if you've got a large investment in an automobile, and not that automobiles are investments, but if all of a sudden you just got the rug pulled out from under you, and it's worth 30% less than it was prior, they're somewhat of a duty or a responsibility just to protect your own assets and to seek recovery for that. So what would you, I guess your last piece of advice on somebody that's been in a car accident and their car's been repaired?
And have they, is this somebody with injuries or
well, I guess exploring all of it, and I always really tell people, the insurance companies immediately will say, well, are you okay? I tell people, look, you don't want to make something out of nothing. But when you answer those questions and they're recording that phone call, I always say, I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, we always, you you always, in every instance, answer those types of questions on, with honesty. But to say that, to say I'm not sure yet, or I don't know, there's certainly nothing dishonest about that. Whatever you say and whatever you do, you can bet they'll try to use it against you. If you, if you, for whatever reason, start treatment for an injury, and because of some kind of life circumstance, you're not able to make it to your appointments for a couple of weeks. Maybe you have to care for a sick relative or something like that. And of course your back is killing you, or you can't get out of work or whatever. Your back's still killing you, but a few weeks later, you show back up. Well, the claims adjuster is going to say, aha, there's a gap in treatment. Something's going on here. If the claims adjusters love to look at doctor's records or chiropractor's records where Joe comes in, he's been treating for 4 weeks and he's starting to feel better. And the doctor says, well, how are you doing? He goes, I feel better. Well, of course, Joe feels better than last week, but he's maybe only 50% recovered or something like that. They circle that and put, highlighter through it and say, there, he said it, he's better. So anything like that, they're going to, use that against you.
I guess they have a job to do, right?
Right. I'm glad I work on this side and not on that side.
Me too. All right. Well, Steve, thank you again. Always good information. We'll put your how to get in touch with you. You are still taking on new clients, or are you at that point in your life where?
Oh no, we're taking new clients. Presently, it's all remote, but we're finding that that's working out just fine.
We're finding the same thing. It's actually saving time. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You enjoy the rest of your evening. Well, the conclusion of the rest of the story about diminished value. And I don't know if you noticed, but Steve had his friend with him, his partner, Daisy. Daisy wasn't very impressed. She slept through the entire time that we spent together. Anyway, I hope you gained some additional information and understanding about this topic of diminished value and how attorneys can work for you, and understanding that your attorney does work for you. People sometimes are a little bit intimidated with an attorney, and they're afraid to ask questions or speak up. Make sure, if you have an attorney and you've got a personal injury claim, that your attorney is willing to back you up on your diminished value if you don't receive a proper offer of settlement for that loss. If you've got questions, if you've got a diminished value or a vehicle that's been repaired and you're curious about what is the amount of my loss, what is it worth, we review no charge. We just need a copy of the final repair bill. We need to know the date of the accident and the approximate mileage on your vehicle at the time of that accident. We usually can get a review done within 24 hours, give you an idea what your claim is worth. If your vehicle wasn't repaired and it was deemed a total loss, that's a topic for another evening, but 9 out of 10 total loss claims are underpaid. We'll review it for you, no charge. All you got to do is give us a call, contact us, send us an email. You can go back to the landing page, CrashTalk.com, and you can send questions, ask us to help, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours, 48 at the most. So stay safe, wear your mask, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. This has been Crash Talk.